the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Buns,
Present.
Wyatt,
Here.
Lawson, Reister. Lawson and Engel have been approved absent.
Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second. Third from
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda, before I ask for a motion, part of the consent agenda is approving Baker's Night, which is trick or treating for October 31st, 2020 from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. We're going to include that in the consent agenda. The only thing I want to emphasize to all the citizens is that keep safety as primary in this one. If you don't feel safe walking around, don't do it. If you don't feel safe opening your house, keep your lights off, even though it starts at 5 o'clock before the lights, before the darkness hits. But we're going to have it. I know Waterloo canceled theirs today, official. But we're going to go ahead and leave ours on and just be safe. Have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries 3-0.
Mayor's comments. I do have some comments tonight. Anybody who gets the Waterloo Courier hopefully saw the best of the Cedar Valley. Gail put together a little listing here for me. Number one in the Cedar Valley, Bill Colwell Ford as automated dealership.
It's their fifth year in a row.
Fifth year in a row.
Fifth year in a row.
Ernie Doden as from Bill Colwell Ford is the auto salesperson, number one. Quick Lane for the oil change was number one. Rusty Bucket Antique Store was number one. Ron Steele as news anchor was number one. Also they had honorees, Dr. Power Sports for both ATVs and motorcycles. Lincoln Savings Bank is the bank. Quick Lane again for brake service. D&W Carpet Flooring and Floor Covering. Randall Stop and Shop for catering, and Hudson Hardware Plumbing and Heating as a plumber. So
Awesome.
thanks for all of those businesses that we've got local. Hopefully we use them as much as we can.
And we apologize if we missed anybody,
Yeah.
and so if people want to let us know, we'll certainly recognize them in the future. But
Yep.
thanks for everybody for the work that they do here in the Cedar Valley.
We also appreciate everybody that shopped local.
Committee reports. Public Works Committee, Matt, we'll let Chrissy go ahead and go through it for you.
All right, so the first item of discussion was replacing the box on the Sterling dump truck. There's a corner on it that has rusted out, and Public Works does have a temporary fix on it. Public Works Director got a bid from Don's Truck Sales and is recommending just replacing the box, and it was recommended to council to install a stainless steel box, and the amount of that is $19,900.
Thing to go along with that, I reached out to the insurance company and they're trying to file a claim on it, so he was picked up by that.
Because it did happen while you were helping with
Storm
cleanup.
damage, yeah.
Okay. There was a 3-year contract from A-Line Striping and Sweeping to do the striping and for the line striping on the streets for 3 years. The cost of that is $6,720 per year. Typically, the striping is done right before Hudson Days. I believe that it was done a little later this year with not having Hudson Days. The next item that was discussed was the contractor that was set to do the parking lot at the community center, and the fire department is no longer able to do the work. And so the other company that we had was Cunningham Construction. They submitted a bid. Jake has reached out to them, and they are willing to still do the project. On the council agenda tonight is just reaffirming that that's okay, since we have already previously approved those bids. There were 2 sewer adjustments, which again were on tonight's agenda that you approved during the consent agenda. And the final item that was discussed was a service truck replacing or adding a a pickup to the water sewer department. It was discussed to possibly adding a service truck to the fleet. We're gonna hold off on that for a couple more years. At the next Public Works meeting, we're gonna look at possibly purchasing a F-350. But we'll bring that when it comes.
Cunningham can do the concrete still this season,
He said they could try squeeze it in this year, if not, they'll honor the price next year.
in the spring.
Yeah.
Probably have the fire department first priority of the two, or which?
They'll do them both at the same
Right,
time.
both
Same time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if they're gonna come down here, they'll probably just do a whole.
Any other questions for Chrissy or Jake or Matt? Thanks.
Will you,
All of
sorry,
you.
one other quick thing, double check the dugout thing, because I think our original contractor was the one set to do the concrete for that too, so I don't
Yeah.
think.
He's already doing it.
He's doing those.
He's gonna start this week.
Good.
Public hearings, we got 3 of them. First one, we'll do public hearing to consider and gather public input regarding a proposed water tower land lease agreement with STS Broadband LLC. That one of you guys?
Yep, both of us.
Two of them.
Yep.
So, I live in Ackley, but co-own and manage 3 businesses here in Hudson, with my business partner, a local resident, Jeremy Stacker. I personally know the frustration of a lack of internet options in rural Iowa. My farm is just outside of reach of Mediacom and CenturyLink. Well, let's just say I was the last house on their service line. But I was fortunate enough to find out about a local resident who is providing another option, a wireless internet. He currently is using the Ackley Water Tower, the same way we are requesting to use the Hudson Water Tower, to get signal out to those who have no options. I am not the only person in Ackley, or rural Iowa for that matter, that would be without internet due to this service and partnership between the business owner and the city. The internet is no longer just a nice to have, it's more of a necessity to operate in today's world. Now, with the trials that 2020 have already put in front of our schools, homes, and businesses, the Hudson community needs another option more than ever, especially those people who currently do not have high-speed internet with children attempting to go back to school. We can be one of those stopgaps to meet these needs. I hope the council will vote yes to allowing us on the water tower to begin servicing the community.
We also had 2 written comments in favor down at DeBillo. Zach DeBillo and Brandon Goach said it'd be great to have a local business. Same way John and Candy Co-Food also put in a vote for STS broadband service. One of the things that our attorney raised a couple weeks ago, and you're aware of, was a question relative to compensation, because we hadn't been thinking about that. I think it might have been your response, where Chrissy had gone out and gotten what other cities were getting, but I think it was pointed out to us that that's for the full type tower, stuff like that. Is there any type, and of course we don't have it on for any action this meeting, we will for the next meeting. Is there a number that you would want to propose to us in writing as far as what you'd be comfortable with for an amount per month?
Well,
Because we know some of those were, way on the far side.
right, yeah, those were cell phone company costs that you
Yeah.
guys were reporting back to us. We think 250 would be fair.
Okay. And what length of an agreement, 3-year?
We could do a 3-year to start out and see if the relationship works between
Okay.
everybody.
Okay. All right. Any other comments from,
I've also received another written comment in favor of having it too from another citizen, Daniel Carter.
Okay.
So just to add to the list.
any other written comments come in?
No.
Okay. Any other comments? We'll close that public hearing. Then we'll open the public hearing to consider and gather public input regarding a proposed water tower lease agreement with LTD Broadband LLC. You're with STS also, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's on the phone. He's
Oh.
on, but he's ready to speak.
Okay, ask him if there's any comments he'd like to make.
You might probably have to turn it up.
Corey, is there any comments you were wanting to make?
Yeah, I like their price too.
like their price.
I assume the council kind of has the email chain of the discussion.
Yep.
And I'm glad that the council picked this back up. I think the last communication we had from Hudson was on May 22nd. We had responded that your attorney had made some suggestions for revising the contract language, and we agreed to that. But I guess I don't know, maybe the council can speak to, what's happening in the intervening 4 months. But our normal proposal in working with municipalities throughout Iowa is to provide free internet at locations that the cities can use it. That tends to eclipse, at least for most cities, what they would get in rent in terms of cost avoidance, from paying other broadband providers. I shared a number of municipalities that we work with that trade free internet service in exchange for space and a minimal amount of power. And we're, not locked into that. As a council, we prefer cash compensation. Instead, we do pay anywhere from $50 a month up to a top of $300 in Preston, Minnesota. That's our most expensive municipal water tower that we lease space on. But we really view this as an advantage for rural communities, and we've seen tremendous growth in the past 5 years, but certainly since COVID, with homeschooling and homework requirements. And we think it's a benefit to the community. I mean, certainly, there are broadband options right now in Hudson, and there's broadband options in the surrounding areas. But we think that competition is good. It makes us stronger. It makes others stronger as well because they have to compete. So I think in any case, whether or not the city of Hudson opts to avoid the cost that you're paying for broadband now and trade for service, or enter into a monetary agreement, I think it'll be a net benefit for the residents in Hudson to have an additional broadband choice.
Okay, thanks, Corey. Chrissy, did we have any communication from that point in time? We were mainly working on potential lease agreements, weren't we, with the attorneys? So Corey, what I will propose that we have on the agenda for next month's council meeting is that we would propose entering into agreement with STS as well as your firm, each at $250 per month. I really don't want to go through taking the free services. That way it allows me to be a lot more equitable from all the providers that are in town, and that way we can decide, we may put some services on one service and one on another and see where it goes from there. But at the $250 per month proposal at 3 years can kind of work for you, you thought, Corey?
Definitely.
Okay.
And the only other comment I would have is, weather is a factor, so the sooner we can get hanging gear, the better. We don't want to do this when it's
Yep.
icy in January. So.
Okay.
Why not?
Oh, Matt has 2 questions. Go ahead, Matt.
Was it Corey was the second gentleman that talked, is that right?
Yes.
You referred to an email, communication thread. Is that the council was involved in May?
That would have been Chrissy and my being involved with the request from STS as well as LTD. So it was not brought up to the council prior, Matt.
Okay.
Other than, I think we discussed it last council meeting and decided we needed to have public hearings to be able to go through it.
Okay. Is there anything in those emails that the council should see as we make this decision, or is it just kind of like?
No, what we will do between now and the packet going out on the Friday before the next council meeting, which is Tuesday the 13th, we will get you the most recent drafts of the agreements, inclusive of the dollar amounts in there, and Chrissy will forward y'all any communications we've had back and forth, so you'll have the full open communication.
Okay, second question. How much are we spending as a city of Hudson on internet? So I guess my question is, if we're paying $250 a month, is that a better deal for us to pay $250 a month, or is it a better deal for us to save whatever we're spending on internet elsewhere currently?
Chrissy or Katie, I'd be correct that we're spending under $250 a month, correct at this time, or are we spending over that?
Over.
So we'll take a look at that and decide how we can pull that into play.
Okay.
I think the agenda packet has a bill from MediaCom that shows like $550 in that neighborhood.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the only bill, but it's one bill I saw.
Okay. I just wanna consider all those factors to see what's the better bottom line deal, you know what I mean?
Good point. Valid point.
Because right now our phones run off of the internet too, or the VoIP.
Right, so we'll have to take a look at all that.
All for us and rich without all the routers, all the equipment, all the installs, that everything is free to the city, so it's not just the, you know, whatever it is per month. You gotta think of the cost of the equipment, the cost of the routers, and everything that goes into play, and we take care of all that.
Okay,
Got it, thanks a lot, Mitch.
And we can certainly, before the next meeting,
we will,
get with these guys as well as you guys to
Yep.
kinda iron all that out, I'm assuming,
yes.
correct, to
Yeah.
make the best
Start
decision.
working on that yet
That's
this
what
week.
Heather wants.
Yep.
So.
Yep, that's what I assumed we could do,
Okay.
so.
So we'll start communication the next couple of days with both firms and see how we can get this thing nailed down.
Does your SIM card, cause we pay AT&T for a SIM card for the squads as well.
No,
Verizon.
that's Verizon.
Who's the-
AT&T is for the water collector, SIM card for water collector.
And does that have to go through AT&T or it's a good time that we need to look at all of our wireless services to see if there's any of those that we can bundle. That's always kind of bothered me that we've got one at Verizon, one at AT&T, US Cellular, MediaCom, everybody, that if we can bundle all those together, it may be some sort of a cost savings to us as well, so.
We'll pull that in.
Will this affect our franchise thing with MediaCom?
Any other items for the public hearing?
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
And this is for Mitch and Corey. What kind of, you know, this is line of sight type stuff to the water tower, is that what you're saying?
We'll retrain Cheryl.
Yes, we do have tech, you know, like 5 gigahertz, 60 gigahertz, you know, and 80 and stuff. That is line of sight technology, but there is other technology that we have. You know, I don't wanna go into too much detail about it, but like, you know, there's LTE, there's 2.4 that can shoot through trees, and we can still get the bandwidth, you know, to those customers that need it when there's, you know, when there's trees and other interruptions that are in there. As for hill, it's not gonna shoot through a hill. Yeah. I guess I was wondering, are there any other barriers besides the line of sight, like bad weather or, that kind of stuff? What does affect, fixed wireless connection? You know, I have it personally on my home. I also used to have it at my home. And there was about once out of every 52 times my kids would go out, we would maybe go out, and by the time I could do anything about it, it was out of town. But it all, in us, only 4 miles, you know, to the tower, and that has a lot to affect me too. So I guess every situation varies, but it really limits down, especially if you got that line of sight. I mean, big chances of it going off the creek. And then we also are proactive about it, especially, you know, when it comes to cities, you know, city places, you know, to our bigger towers, we have a lot of customers, we don't want them going down. You know, we do the ones, we put in battery backup, so, and things like that, where, you know, if something were to go wrong, you know, we would still have the service coming.
Hey, Matt,
Yeah,
why don't you send me, send Chrissy and I a list of all your questions. I'll ask the council to do the same thing. We'll get those questions out to each of the providers and they can respond to those. That way we'll have all of them addressed.
perfect, thank you.
Okay?
So I'm gonna say the same thing that they're
Yeah.
talking about, I'm guessing you guys have that same
Yeah.
line of sight and everything else that would be about the same situation between both companies, correct?
Yeah, and all the situations depend on, you know, what's going on.
Absolutely.
You know, this line of sight, the obstructions in the way, buildings, mostly trees are okay, but buildings, hills, things like that.
Trees are okay usually?
It depends on the frequencies, and yeah, how many trees there are, it just.
Yes. DirecTV wouldn't do anything at my house because the trees in my yard.
Okay, with that, I'm gonna close the public hearing. All right, thanks. You guys can leave if you want to. We got another big public
Or you
hearing
can
coming.
stay if you'd like, up to you.
That's what I do. That's fine.
But thanks for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Corey. Now, open a public hearing to consider and gather public input regarding an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Hudson, Iowa by adding Chapter 6908, no parking along Waters Road. And this request had come to Public Safety, correct, Chrissy?
Yes.
And I've got 23 signed documents saying, as a matter of public safety, street parking on Waters Road within the Hudson city limits. Facts: 2 vehicles cannot safely meet in the presence of street parked cars, trucks, trailers, or other vehicles. The hard surface width of the road is only 24 feet. County data indicates the through traffic count is in excess of 300 vehicles per day from 2017 data. The road has limited sight distance, a tight radius blind curve. I imagine that's the one closest to 63, or closest to South Hudson Road. A hill. The road is a primary route for the 35-plus residents of the Hudson Heights area, the farming community northwest of Hudson, including large farm equipment. A grain transport enterprise. In consideration of the above facts, I support a no street parking policy to protect my and others' personal safety. So that's primarily Hudson Heights residents plus farmers. I'll consider that, having voiced the issue. What I'd like to hear first is anybody who has comments relative to not wanting parking, or don't want to have no parking on it. Name and address.
I'm Jerry Mayfield, 5512 Waters Road. I'm on the curve. I like the congestion because it slows the traffic down. And we don't have that. We have a lot of high speed through there early in the morning and late at night when they're
Maybe
going
people
to
going to
work
work
or
and
getting
going
back
back.
home.
Okay.
And we're a little busier at our stable right now. We have a lot of in and out traffic. So on the curve, keeping the speed down, to me, is paramount. Also, as a farmer in the area, I use the road to get back and forth to my fields. And it has not been a problem for me and my equipment. I would prefer that if you was going to do this, that you put no parking on one side only. Leave the other side open for parking. And probably preferable the north side.
For the curve.
Yeah, for the curve. And, but that's my biggest objection. That, when there's vehicles parked along there, it slows them down a bunch, which is a good thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else with comments on either way, either side of the question?
Well, I just brought it up originally.
Harlan, right?
Yeah, Harlan Brandhorst. There's mailboxes on both sides
Saw
of the
that
road.
tonight.
So if there's vehicles on one side, we farm the old Mosier property there. With the tractors we've got and the implements we have, they're quite wide. And even if they're parked on one side with the mailboxes, it becomes tight. And we're afraid if we scrape a vehicle or something, we're gonna have problems. And it's also been brought to my attention, since you're going west, the right time of day when the sun's going down, it can be hard to see too, because of they say you're driving into the sun, and if there's vehicles parked out quite into the traffic, it can be kind of hard to see those. But that was my effect, is we can get through there with large equipment, and
Gotcha.
it's pretty tight.
Yeah. Yep.
Can I respond to that a little bit? I'm a snowbird. I leave this area, go where it's warm. And out there, we're a half mile from our mailbox. They're all clustered in one spot. Everybody in our community in Arizona drives up to their mailbox, gets their mail, and gets down to their place.
We have the same scenario in our newer subdivisions,
Yes,
but it's all under the post office
And
control.
we can't change that.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And I was in here before and made a comment that it would be nice that we could get government agencies to work within themselves to help solve the problem.
Okay.
I, for one, I think I'm the only one in the whole spot there that has to cross the road to get my mail. Everybody else, their mailboxes are on the side they live. It's not an inconvenience to cross the road to get your mail, if you could get them to move the mailboxes to one side. preferably, if they would move the mailboxes and put them in a cluster, then the mail delivery person wouldn't have to go up to the hill and turn around in the middle of the road and come back, like she does to put mail on both sides.
Sure.
As a safety thing, I think that would be somewhat advantageous to the mail delivery people.
Sure.
Plus it'd be time saving for them to do it in one spot.
Yeah. Okay. And from what I'm hearing here is if there was parking allowed, say one side, the best parking would be on the south side, so you're coming around the curve with no blockage from a site standpoint? Or anybody got an opinion on that one? Okay, no comments.
You don't have to comment.
This is public input.
And my concern too is that we do know that that is it's much more narrow than any other street we have in town. Cause it's 23 foot across, and anything that we've got with parking on it up here has the sides on it, there's more than 23 feet.
They're all 31, I think.
Thank you. So that's the biggest concern to me about this too when we get to this thing. And we do have to go through 3 readings if we move forward with this tonight. So this isn't end all by any means, but this is where we want to get your guys' opinions, and that's why we appreciate both sides coming to the table tonight to give us the information.
Yeah, because the options tonight are either to table the ordinance or not have a motion to do anything with the ordinance, or approve it through a first reading with still 2 more readings to go. But
we
we'd like
can-
to come down to a solution that worked.
But we can also close the public hearing and move on so that we can, council can chat about this.
If, from the standpoint of the farm equipment coming through, I used to be a farmer, but it was years ago. Even when I worked up here in the craft farm for 4 years, back in the late 60s, or early 70s.
Wow, you're dating yourself there.
Yes, I am.
Just saying.
That's why I now start to go to Arizona in the winter. Thanks to my pro tem being here, I can be comfortable with that. Is there anything that would work as being a no parking for certain hours? That would help the most, no parking or such a thing as 2-hour parking or anything like that. I presume anybody parking out there on Waters Road is parking overnight. A 2-hour parking scenario would work from a standpoint of parties or anything like that. But if it's a case that the vehicles are gonna be the overnight or during the day, obviously a 2-hour parking doesn't work or anything.
It's the residents themselves,
Yeah,
and they don't go to work before we do.
okay.
We
There
pretty
is
much
no
farm.
time on farm.
We farm.
But now playing
I
devil's
didn't think anything changed there. I thought it was potentially 24 hours if the weather's right.
Playing
We don't put
devil's
it on.
advocate with this too, Waters Road is not the only way that you guys can get from your fields to this place, it's just the most convenient, correct? I mean, because you could still go out west and go out that way, correct?
Well, we'd have to go up to, what road is that?
Hollis.
Hollis, or
A mile up, a mile over, and a mile
Right.
down.
It's a
Which-
mile and a half lower, and then your line of sight is terrible up by the craft farm.
And you'd be coming down South Hudson Road on a major thoroughfare.
Yeah, and pulling onto that's
I mean,
not safe either. I mean,
no, like I said, playing devil's advocate, there are other ways around this as well, to look at both sides of everything.
Yeah, there's always, I mean, there's
There's another way to
many
go
different
anywhere.
ways, but
Right.
we're talking distance.
So,
We could take you for a ride on a big truck, George, and
Yeah.
go around one of them cars parked like that.
Yeah.
You don't wanna have somebody come around that corner.
so Jerry, have the residents out there in Waters Road ever approached the post office about making a different arrangements with the boxes that you are aware of?
No.
Has anybody?
I have not.
Okay.
But I would note that there are at least 2 mailboxes on the north side that are set back from the edge of the road. And you can see tire tracks where the mail delivery moves out to get to the boxes. So at that point, between mailboxes on both sides, there's more room. And somehow, at some time, in order to set your mailbox, you gotta get their approval. So they got approval to set their mailboxes back.
We think, unless so many years ago that they
Right.
never were as
That's
strict
just
as they are today.
grandfathered
Yeah.
in.
Well, on the other side of this too, is there any future plans to reconstruct Waters Road?
It's not,
And to widen it?
it's not on our
Not
list
at this point.
relative to the others, some other.
Yeah, because
streets
that's
we
my
got.
other thing too, that with it being that much narrow road, if it is no parking while it's narrow, if it ever gets widened and redone,
Then it'd be 14
Can
or
we-
31.
it could be changed,
Conduit,
you know,
yeah.
to be that point too. You know, with an option of it, but with little kids living out there, and if one little kid darts out in between a car and a combine's coming down the road, you know, it's gonna be a tragic thing that you always hate to see.
Great.
That very point was made by one of the people that signed. In fact, I was the person that put the form together. Other volunteers distributed it. There was no meeting. People either just read it, agreed with it, and sent it back or not. But one of those people kind of chided me a little bit that I didn't have on there the small kids playing and not being able to see them playing in the yard was her biggest concern. Another point or two, Eldora Road and Schrock Road are kind of classified as farm to market roads, or what used to be called farm to market roads, but I would suggest that the way this road services the countryside, it is indeed a farm to market road. And I don't think there would be much interest from the city in having parking on either Schrock or Eldora Road where the vehicles are sitting on the paved surface, which is exactly what happens here. And it's probably a narrower paved surface besides. I also thought it was interesting that when these forms came back, two of the first ones that came back were from retired law enforcement people that live in Hudson Heights. I think they see the issue of safety there. And when we put out 40 plus, I guess around 40 forms, I had no idea how many people shared my concern. I expected maybe to see 10 back. And when 23 came back with carrying a total of 39 signatures, I thought, well, this is a bigger concern to more people than what I thought it was.
I do have another, you know, that this could happen in other roads that we have that are developing out in the northern tier 2, Ranchero.
Ranchero, Westwood.
Could be a potential for this same thing to occur, and I know Matt had that same sentiment when we had the public safety committee meeting as well. That he was gonna drive it right away, and that's why we also have Chief Banks here to kind of give his input on it.
Well, and there on the Ranchero, one individual